everything inside me open and rescue was going on. Nobody was making an attempt to rescue me.
Picture this. You're suddenly pulled into a 30-inch steel pipeline, spinning helplessly in a tornado of water, tools, and debris. 5 men. Pitch black darkness. The crushing certainty that death is just moments away. Only one would survive to tell this story. February 25th, 2022. What began as routine maintenance work for LMCS diving in Pointe-à-Pierre, Trinidad, became one of the most horrifying industrial disasters ever recorded. A GoPro camera captured it all, and what it reveals will haunt you. Kazim Ali Jr., Yusuf Henry, Fyzal Kurban, Rishi Nagassar, and Christopher Boodram, 5 professional divers with years of experience. Their mission seemed straightforward: perform maintenance on a dormant pipeline section connecting berth 5 and berth 6 at the Petro-Trin fuel facility. The pipeline formed a U-shape between the tanker offloading point and the refinery entrance. To access their work area, they deployed a habitat bell, an 8-by-8-foot cube structure that would displace water and create a dry workspace above the pipe. Inside this hyperbaric chamber, the team could remove their diving gear and work safely. The plan was simple. Remove an inflatable plug that had sealed the pipeline for nearly 2 weeks, protecting the oil contents and preventing hydrocarbon leaks. Kazim Ali retrieved the wrench and passed it up to his 4 colleagues positioned around the pipe. As he pulled himself onto the ledge to remove his diving equipment, the valve was opened. What happened next defied all expectations. A tremendous force erupted from the pipeline. Water exploded into the habitat with devastating power, creating a violent whirlpool that sucked all 5 men into the 30-inch pipe. The force was so sudden, so overwhelming, that they barely comprehended what was happening to them. The GoPro footage captures their final moments before everything goes black. Then, incredibly, you hear voices in the darkness. They were alive, shouting to each other inside what should have been an oil-filled pipeline.
I'm trying to come up. General. Yeah.
The inflatable plug was supposed to contain 1,200 barrels of oil. Under normal circumstances, the habitat's air pressure would press against this heavy oil column, making removal routine and safe. But there was a fatal miscalculation. Unknown to the diving team, there was a significant air column beneath the plug and far less oil than expected. When the plug deflated, high-pressure air from the habitat rushed down the pipeline with explosive force, creating the deadly suction that pulled the men inside. As the habitat pressure suddenly released, ocean water violently flooded in, creating the tornado-like vortex that trapped 5 human beings in a steel tube 1,200 feet long. Christopher Boodram, the sole survivor, describes the unthinkable experience.
It was like an unbelievable nightmare. Your eyes burning. Every time you try to open your eyes, it's burning. You're pitch black, you can't see nothing. Your throat burning. Your ears ringing. Your body sore. And at that point, I tell myself I was going to dead.
Like a tornado, everything just spinning and beating you up. It happened so fast you couldn't react. I remember shooting through the pipe at unbelievable speeds, holding my breath until my body was screaming for air. After the churning subsided, the men found themselves in an air pocket. Despite being battered and disoriented, all 5 had survived the initial trauma. They began calling out to each other, confirming they were truly inside the pipeline together. Navigating the oil-coated interior proved nearly impossible. The entire pipe was slick with crude oil sludge, making movement exhausting. Broken bones, internal injuries, oil burning their eyes and throats, all in complete darkness. After an hour of struggling through the pipe, they faced a new terror, rising seawater. The water level was climbing, leaving only 6 inches of breathing space at the pipe's crown. Christopher and Kazim, leading the group, made a desperate decision. They would attempt to find another air pocket, promising to return with help for the others. Yusuf, Fyzal, and Rishi. Fighting through the water, they discovered a second air pocket near a riser pipe. Even better, 2 of their scuba tanks had somehow ended up there. It felt like salvation. But Kazim's injuries were worsening. In an agonizing decision, Christopher took the remaining oxygen and pushed alone through the narrow 2.5-foot passage toward what he hoped was the exit. Swimming up nearly 60 feet, Christopher faced a terrifying possibility. What if this was berth 5, not berth 6? He would surface only to find another inflatable plug, a death trap with his oxygen nearly depleted. After more than 2 hours in the pipeline, Christopher broke the surface at berth 6. His desperate screams finally attracted attention. Exhausted and overwhelmed, he delivered the impossible news. There were air pockets in the line, and all the men were still alive. Christopher's rescue gave everyone hope. Divers tapped on the pipeline and received responses from inside. The trapped men must have felt overwhelming relief. Help was coming, but help never came. Hour after hour, the 4 remaining men waited in their oily prison. They listened for the sound of rescue equipment, watched for lights, hoped for oxygen tanks to be lowered down. Nothing. The debate over what happened next remains contentious. Some claim Petrotrin prevented rescue divers from entering the pipeline. Others argue there was no viable plan that wouldn't risk more lives. Some believe the men were already dead, and the tapping sounds came from debris. The undeniable facts paint a heartbreaking picture. 4 men were confirmed alive at 5 p.m. on Friday when Christopher was rescued. Multiple witnesses heard tapping from inside the pipeline for nearly 48 hours before it stopped. Autopsies revealed that all 4 men survived until various times on Saturday, with some apparently living until Monday. We may never know if they succumbed to their injuries, ran out of breathable air, or drowned attempting to swim to an exit. 4 professional divers, just hundreds of feet from salvation, died in a steel tomb while rescue teams debated above them. The aftermath. A commission of inquiry was established in Trinidad and Tobago, with findings that would reveal the full scope of this preventable tragedy. The GoPro footage stands as haunting testimony to 5 men caught in an industrial nightmare, and the system that failed to save them. In Christopher Boodram's words, "Everything inside me hoped rescue was coming. Nobody was making an attempt to rescue us." The Paria Pipeline disaster remains a stark reminder that in industrial work, a single miscalculation can transform routine maintenance into unthinkable horror, and that sometimes survival depends not just on courage and determination, but on systems and people who must choose to act when lives hang in the balance.